Ladies and gentlemen, I am here with the one, the only, the legend. Please make some noise, Cali Mornings, for Akon.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Akon, how are you, sir?
No, I'm doing great. I'm
Man.
doing amazing.
Man, it's always great seeing you.
Thank you, brother.
And, we all know that you have been working really hard on something a little different this time around.
Right.
A Spanish album.
Yeah.
El Negrito.
El
Oh,
Negreeto.
man, I can't. We were just talking about this off mic, but I cannot even tell you how excited Mondo was when you released
Right.
that. He came into
Nah,
the
that's
studio
dope.
6 a.m. in the morning. Did you guys hear that new Akon album? He was like, I like this song, and he
Nah,
he
that's
loved
dope.
it.
Te tengo frente a frente, amor.
Yeah, no, that-
you know?
Ooh.
Yeah, that's my bachata record.
Yep, yeah.
Bachata.
So
Yeah.
look, this album, I mean, I've seen other artists do Spanish albums, but this album from like start to finish, the production is very well made. Your Spanish accent is
great. Yeah.
perfect.
Nah, thank you.
So how did the album come about?
Well, I've been wanting to do a Latin album since Convicted. Like literally around that time, I wanted to do a Spanish version of Convicted. But of course, the powers that be at that time didn't think it was a good idea, so I was always fighting with my creativity and so on and so forth. But I said, if one day it don't matter, I will be able to do it. And it just so happened that you fast forward, 10 years later,
And it's
I'm able to do it. But I always wanted to do it. But it came about because even all the way down to my first record, Locked Up, I had a Latin remix with Boltio out of Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
Then
Boltio.
by the time we put out the second Convicted, when I put out I Wanna Love You, I put Tego Calderon on that remix.
Wow.
So every song I always had Latin remixes for them per se, because I always enjoyed that market because it's so close to Africa, and I was raised by Puerto Ricans in Jersey. So my squad was all Puerto Rican.
Yeah,
so.
I was gonna say that. I do feel like the
Right.
reason why you have always had an eye for that and understanding is because of kind of where you were raised and your roots
Right.
and everything. You really feel like there's a connection there.
It's a huge connection. And when I first came to America, I spoke French, I spoke Spanish. I didn't speak any English, but being in the Midwest, growing up as a kid, when no one to speak, you just slowly start losing everything. But the accent, everything was still there because I used to speak before on a really fluent level. So when you listen to the album, you wouldn't be able to tell whether or not I spoke or not because
Right.
that's why the pronunciation is so on tag.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, man, and I think that's the number one. I mean, the music's incredible, but like the fact that your accent was just impeccable, man. Like that really sold the album, which is congrats. It was number one on Apple Music.
Right.
Number
and
one.
for the debut
big
number one. No, that was a
deal.
huge deal. Like
That's a
they
huge
was like, man,
deal.
you just set another record. You're the first African American to ever have a number one Latin album. I was like, well, that's what's up. I was happy. I felt like I accomplished everything after that.
Yes.
So you have Anita on there.
Yeah.
You have Becky G on
Right.
there. You have Pitbull.
Pitbull, Farruko, and then the remixes of these records are just on a whole nother level. From Ozuna to, I don't want to give it up. Just be ready.
So there's remixes.
I can't say no more. Just be ready.
I can't say no mas out
I
here.
can't say nada.
Hey,
I'm gonna
okay.
keep it quiet.
So tell me, when you first walked into the studio, right, when you were just about to start,
Uh-huh.
you have no songs yet or any, when it was just an idea, or maybe you did have songs already that you were making.
Oh, so let me give you the process of how it really
Yeah.
worked, right? So basically, Mafia was my brother. Like me and him go back forever, right? So we would go in the studio, create the beat. Then I would go in the vocal booth and lay down all the melodies as if there was a language on it, but it's just a melody.
Yeah.
So once the record felt like it was a hit, then we'd go grab the right writers to come and just write what we want them to write in Spanish. So a lot of the records were almost kind of written in English, and then I would get the Spanish writer to translate it in Spanish for me to re-sing it.
That's so interesting because a lot of these melodies, they sound very organic to like Latin music.
Right.
They sound like it was created even by people that actually only do music full time in Spanish. So that's so interesting how you're able to kind of translate that and really make it sound like it was, really came from like a full time Latin artist. I mean,
Yeah.
they sounded so organic.
At the same time, we get that we get the Akon vibe.
Right.
We get like the Akon, that Akon touch in like in the middle. You sprinkle it in,
Right. But you know what's crazy? For years, I was producing for a lot of Latin artists, even at the
okay.
time when they were at their peak. I mean, all the way from Daddy Yankee to Aventura to Don Omar.
Wow.
I've worked with all of them on a production level. So I was always in the market per
Okay.
se, but no one really knew because the genres are kind of partition. You got hip hop that listen to hip hop, Latin that listen to Latin, R&B listen to R&B, country listen to country, and very rarely the audience will actually fuse and listen to everything. So half people never really knew until recently.
You mentioned Aventura, big giants of the bachata game.
Giants of the bachata
Romeo
game.
Santos. You have a bachata song that we just previously talked about. You have a bachata song on this album. Do you dance bachata? Are you a bachatero?
Oh yeah,
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
What
You do?
I get what?
You get down?
Man, what? Man, my merengue, my bachata, serious. I challenge anybody.
Really?
What? That's the first thing I do, man. I just go on the dance floor, grab the baddest chica, and go hard. Right?
That's awesome. So when you're in the studio making this music, I mean, as an artist, maybe you need different things in there. Some people need like a big vibe, and a lot of people and alcohol. Other people just needed to be kind of chill. Did that process change when you were making Latin music over when you were making, other types of
pop
genres?
music?
No, it's actually, to me, the same. It was the same process.
What's that for you?
It was like literally go in there, make the beat, put down the melody, and then figure out which the best words, that will translate, that everyone can constantly relate to, or everybody can party to. So, but the energy itself, long as the studio is about 85 to 90 degrees inside,
Oh, it's the
I'm
temperature.
good. I don't like cold studios. When it's cold, my brain freezes. I can't think. So I got to be in there. It got to be hot. It got to feel the culture.
You need a lot of people in there?
Nah.
You don't need a lot of people.
It don't matter if it's
It
one
doesn't matter?
person or 100 people in the studio. The creative process don't change for me. Long as the room temperature is at 90, I'm good.
90. That's interesting.
That's
at
my only
90.
process. All I ask for is heat.
You're in their sweat. So it's like a sauna studio.
You want heat, you got to give me heat.
You got a lot of features on this album, El Negreeto. Who
Right.
was that first phone call that you made?
The first phone call I made was to Ozuna.
Ozuna.
It's crazy because the first single was supposed to be featuring Ozuna, originally the first single. But then at the time when me and Ozuna did the record, he just took off because me and him had just did the single for his album, right? So he just took off. So the timing of me and him getting my video shot and releasing it, it was just kind of spreading a little too far. So I said, let's just go with the one with Becky, because Becky was at the time, now she's growing, she's doing her thing, and then me and her chemistry was just amazing. So I was like, everything happens for a reason. Let's run with this one, and I'll double back with Ozuna on the next one.
You mentioned Becky. Becky G's on the album. You just
Right.
performed with her, your single, at the EMAs.
Yeah, at the EMAs.
How was that, man? I know
that was
Spain
crazy.
loves you, man.
Nah, man. EMA's performance was just like, I was looking forward to that performance the whole month. My biggest challenge was remembering all my lyrics in Spanish.
I
No,
know,
listen,
that's tough.
yo, because I can barely remember all my lyrics in English.
I
And
know.
because I have so many hits and so many records, so I always have a teleprompter on a lot of my songs. Because outside listening to my own songs, I got to remember the lyrics that I did on features and collaborations. So, man, I had to remember that. And, man, listen, when I tell you I had to repeat that song hundreds and thousands, and all I cared was just that EMA. I said, once I get that, then I can relax. Because that shit was live.
Oh, you know what? You know what? Like
150 million people watching.
It's crazy because even just being in media and stuff, you know it. You feel like you know it, and then the minute you get on stage,
Yeah.
even you're like, how am I already forgetting the first word?
Already.
Like that stress.
Because you get
I
excited.
could
Like,
not.
you start getting excited,
Yeah.
and you just forget the words.
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
And it's easier when the audience knows the song.
'cause you could just-
Because then you...
Hey, you sing it for me. Yeah.
And they remind you, then you get back into it. But when they just hearing it for the first time, it's a debut. Oh, you done.
Dang, that's stressful.
Right.
Man,
stressful.
there's a lot of artists that would love, and you have collaborated with.
Yeah.
Who's that one person that Akon has not worked with yet that is in due time, here very soon, coming soon?
I think I don't know whoever. I don't honestly. I don't
feel like
even
you've
know.
collaborated
who I
with
haven't
everyone.
with. Yeah. I
At this
honestly.
point.
I'm trying to think who I haven't.
It's actually even harder to
Yeah.
figure that out.
That there is nobody that I haven't really recorded with. I mean, literally everybody.
Was there somebody that prior to recording with them, you were like, dang, I would kill, or that's a goal or something, and that
Michael
you
Jackson was my goal.
Man, and you did that.
Yeah.
Here we
once,
go.
Once I accomplished that, it was like I don't care who. I don't matter anymore.
You're like, I'm
good.
good.
Like, but if you
I have my
notice-
head out.
if you notice, after that collaboration, you start seeing me collaborate with a lot of brand new artists. Because at that moment, I was like, my legacy is fulfilled. Now let me just collaborate with artists that one day would have never thought they'd be able to collaborate with me, or
Wow.
artists that I felt had potential to be big in the future.
Yeah.
I want to help them and get that. So I would do a lot of collaboration with new artists.
Is there any artist right now that you feel like is coming up in Latin and just in general that you really have your eye on?
Well, the one I really had my own and knew was gonna be huge was Ozuna. I always felt that.
Ozuna.
Because I
Ozuna.
always felt like he was like a Latin version of myself when I was younger.
Totally, I can see that.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Even the
that's-
tone of
yeah.
voice,
So
even
that's
the
why
melodies.
me and really,
yeah.
that's why me and him kind of really click. But I'm loving Setch right now.
Setch, man,
I
he's a
love
great
Setch
one.
right now.
Panama.
Yeah, he's from Panama too. He's like, and he's black. He's another El Negreeto. So it's like, and he's like, we all we got right now. So
Yeah. So, Akon, you know, obviously you're an incredible musician, but you're also an incredible philanthropist.
Yeah,
I know,
and
you know,
businessman.
while you kind of stepped away from the music game, you've done a lot for the world, man. Can you talk a little bit about that?
yeah, so that was more about legacy building, but more than anything, but giving back in a way. Because I always felt like, man, when God puts you in a position to be blessed, He's channeling that blessing through you to put it to people that normally wouldn't have the access.
Beautiful.
You know what I'm saying? So I always looked at success as a responsibility when it comes back to giving back. Because what's the purpose of having millions and billions of dollars just sitting in the bank when you got people literally starving? And you know,
Wow,
it just
yeah.
didn't never make sense to me. So I always felt like that blessing was net. He only passed it through hands of people that he feels trustworthy enough to pass it through. Some of us are really immature and don't understand that concept just yet. But I think as success grows and you start to realize that there's only but so many things you can buy, and there's only but so much
Yep.
happiness comes with fortune, you start to realize, okay, this got to be something bigger.
Yeah, until the
You know what I'm
the
saying?
thrill keeps getting less and less the more you get. I
Right.
feel it's harder to kind of satisfy that excitement still.
Absolutely.
So I think it's a beautiful thing. And this is something that I love to ask artists because we look at the headlines now, we see everything that's happening. There's so much happening. What's something in your opinion as like a human you feel like people need to really be paying attention to that's happening in the world right now?
Oh, climate change.
Man.
That's the key. Like, as
Yes.
crazy as it may sound, as political as it may sound, as overly scientifical, concept that you may think it is, this is the reason why all these forest fires is all on the West Coast. This is the reason why all these whales are popping up, floating. Like, the temperature is how we manage our vitals.
Yeah.
So if the world's temperature is not at a certain set, we either gonna freeze to death or we gonna burn to death.
Yeah.
It's
And
so
we're at
sensitive.
that level, like literally, where it's getting so hot because of all the chemical stuff that we're utilizing, and the like toxic stuff that we're putting in our foods, and I mean, this is ridiculous. But more so than anything, when you look at the way the climate is shifting, areas that used to be cold in the wintertime is now hot, and areas that used to be hot in the wintertime is now cold.
Yeah.
And as I'm traveling, I'm literally seeing the different, like I'm seeing the inconsistencies, and that, man, it's scary, bro.
We only wanted 90 degrees in the studio.
I mean, I'm cool with 9 degrees, period. But when it started to reach 114,
No, but yeah,
115,
it's a serious thing.
like Vegas was at 120 this year.
Yeah.
120.
Yeah, I think I had read an article that California was like the hottest it's
Yes.
ever been, I believe,
Can
this
you imagine
summer.
it being so hot that the trees just start catching on fire?
That's crazy.
Like, and this is this
That's
year.
real.
This is 2019.
Yeah.
So can you imagine if this continues in 2025?
It's crazy.
Yo, I mean, it's scary.
Big changes need to happen, and I think it's a beautiful thing that you want to raise awareness to that, and you're doing things bigger than yourself. I think
we have
that's
to.
so beautiful, so admirable.
Right.
Man. So, Akon, we love you for being
Nah,
an
thank you.
amazing
Yes.
musician.
Thanks for promoting me, bro.
Bro,
And
I
yes,
got
you're
you
so
all day. You're an incredible humanitarian
Yeah.
as well,
Nah, thank you.
man. And come by anytime and,
Nah,
and,
for
and
sure.
sing some songs for the lady, man. Some bachata songs
Yeah,
for the
come
for the
dance
girls,
sometime.
for Jessica and Caro.
Caro, she's
We
our
gotta
co-host. She would
dance.
love to dance with you.
Say
she
no
loves
more.
dancing.
Just listen. Next time you come, set up a nice little dance floor and play, whatever. You can play whatever. Just give me the best bachata record that makes you
Hey.
feel good, and you just,
Hey.
watch your boy.
Ding, 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 ding.
Bien
ding, ding, ding,
sexy,
ding,
míralo. El Akon.
Akon, thank you again, brother. Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
by Cali Mornings.
Absolutely.
Make some noise for Akon, everybody.
Yo.
Cali 93.9, número 1 para reggaetón y más.
Y más.